This is a story of Siddhartha, the son of a brahmin, who grew up with his friend Govinda in the village. He had already taken part in the learned men's conversations, had engaged in debate with Govinda, and had practiced the art of contemplation and meditation with him. His parents were very happy on seeing their child thirsty for knowledge and saw him growing up to be a great learned man. He led a good life. Govinda, his friend, always wanted to follow Siddhartha. But Siddhartha himself was not so happy. His intellect was not satisfied. His soul was not at all at peace. His heart was still not calm. One day, after meditating with his friend Govinda by the banks of the river, he decided to join the Samanas, the wandering ascetics. Govinda was shocked to hear this but knew what was happening. Siddhartha went to home and told his father his plans and asked him to allow him. His father, after so much hesitation, allowed him and said, "If you find bliss in the forest, come back and teach it to me. If you find disillusionment, come back and we shall again offer sacrifices to the gods together." Next morning, touching his mother's feet, he left home with Govinda, joined the Samanas, gave all his clothes, leaving only a loincloth. He only ate once a day and never cooked food, fasted for long periods. Flesh disappeared from his legs, his cheeks. Siddhartha had one single goal: to become empty. But after a few days of meditations, fastings and pain, Siddhartha told Govinda that he is still not satisfied. Even after staying with the Samanas for 4 years, although he learned many things from the Samanas, he learned to think, wait, and fast. He thought he is still away from wisdom and salvation. He then heard of Gautam the Buddha, a holy man who had wandered through the country preaching. Next day, Siddhartha left the Samanas politely and, together with Govinda, reached the other village where Gautam the Buddha was staying. Attending his discourse, Govinda was impressed by the teachings of Gautam the Buddha, but Siddhartha left Gautam saying that his teachings doesn't contain the secret of the illustrious one himself experiences. He praised Gautam the Buddha and left him, for he was in search of himself. He wanted to conquer himself. He thought that he must gain experience himself. Siddhartha reflected deeply as he went on his way. He discovered that something had left him, like the old skin a snake sheds. Something that had accompanied him through his youth and was part of him. This was the desire to have teachers and listen to their teachings. Siddhartha started the new journey. The world was beautiful when he looked at in this way, without any seeking, so simple, so childlike. It was beautiful and pleasant to go through the world like that, so childlike, so awakened, so concerned with the immediate, without any distrust. After 3 years being a samana, he left the path to start a new life. He reached a new town where he met Kamala, a beautiful, well-known courtesan, with whom he fell in love with. He asked her to teach him the art of love. In course of time, Kamala helped him to find a job so that he can earn his living. As time passed, Siddhartha became richer and richer and became greedy, reckless with his life. Property, possessions, and riches also finally trapped him. Enjoying worldly pleasures, he again at a point got enough of it and realized that everything is useless and is of no real value. So he left everything and went towards the river. He learned that the pleasures of the world and the riches were not good. Near the river, he got so depressed that he even thought of ending his life, but suddenly heard a voice from the river and from within himself. The ferryman Vasudeva became his friend and taught him to listen and learn from the river. Siddhartha began living with Vasudeva by the side of the river. They used to row boat and used to help travelers to cross the river. Sitting by the side of the river, Siddhartha saw that the water continually flowed and flowed, and yet it was always there, it was always the same, and yet every moment it was new. Siddhartha had already learned from the river that it is good to strive downwards, to sink, to seek the depths. He learned from the river continually. Above all, he learned from it how to listen with a still heart, with a waiting, open soul, without passion, without desire, without judgment, without opinions. Then one day, some seekers were on their way to see Gautam the Buddha in the other village and reached the river bank. Kamala was also among them with her son, the son of Siddhartha and Kamala. Unfortunately, she died of snake bite the same day, and her son started living with Siddhartha and Vasudeva. Siddhartha found that his son was ill-mannered. The son soon turned against his father and ran away towards the town. Siddhartha followed him, but on the way realized that it is foolish to follow him. He thought he should not force himself on him. He was sad and was remembering his own father whom he left alone a long time back. He came back to Vasudeva. Within Siddhartha grew and ripened the knowledge of what wisdom really was and the goal of his long seeking. He could realize now that all the voices, all the goals, all the yearnings, all the sorrows, all the pleasures, all the good and evil, all of them together was the world. All of them together was the stream of events, the music of life. Vasudeva smiled on listening to Siddhartha, and the same radiant smile appeared on Siddhartha's face. From that hour, Siddhartha ceased to fight against his destiny. Vasudeva rose from the seat on the river bank when he looked into Siddhartha's eyes and saw the serenity of knowledge shining in them. He said, "I have waited for this hour, my friend. Now it has arrived. Let me go." Few days later, Govinda also visited Siddhartha, shared all his divine experiences with his friend. Govinda saw the radiant smile on the face of Siddhartha. The smile of Siddhartha was exactly the same as the calm, delicate, impenetrable, perhaps gracious, perhaps mocking, wise, thousand-fold smile of Gautam the Buddha, as he had perceived it with over 100 times. With uncontrollable tears trickling down his old face, Govinda bowed low, right down to the ground, in front of Siddhartha, sitting motionless, whose smile reminded him of everything that he had ever loved in his life. of everything that had ever been of value and holy in his life.